Okay, so like you're interested in like seeing how AI is being used out there in the real world, right?
Mm.
Especially in like those really, really high stakes situations where it's not just about, convenience, it's about making the right decisions, the ones that
Yeah.
really matter.
Yeah, for sure. And what's really interesting is that Palantir Technologies, they're not just building another AI model, just throwing it on the pile.
Right.
They've actually built this whole platform called the AI platform or AIP, and it's designed for those really critical situations.
Exactly. We're talking like military operations, government intelligence, even those like super complex industrial problems,
Yeah,
right?
exactly like that.
And for this deep dive, we're going deep on an article from datapro.news all about using AI in those like pressure cooker situations. It's not just theory. These guys are actually out there doing it.
Yeah, and the article really gets into like how Palantir is approaching this whole thing. It's not just about, how powerful the AI is. It's about the entire ecosystem around it.
Yeah.
Like how they're approaching security, how they make sure that the AI is actually doing what it's supposed to do, how humans are actually interacting with it. Like it's all connected.
So it's the whole package deal.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's break this down. The article talks a lot about this ontology thing, and I gotta admit, it sounds a little bit science fiction to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty big idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Imagine like a really, really smart GPS system, right? But instead of just streets, this thing understands like everything about how an organization works. It's not just data points. It's the relationships. The process is basically a living map of what's happening in that organization.
So it's not just a data lake, it's like, I don't know, a super powered brain for the whole organization.
That's actually a great way to put it. And this ontology has like three main superpowers that it uses.
Three superpowers hit me.
Okay, so we got data integration, logic binding, and then something called action orchestration.
Whoa, okay, let's take those one by one data integration. That sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it's basically pulling in all sorts of different real-time data feeds. So we're talking about like sensor data databases, whatever the organization uses. And it maps all of that onto the ontology. So it's not just a jumble of information. It all starts to make sense in context.
Okay, so it's like taking all those puzzle pieces and actually seeing the picture that they make.
Exactly.
All right, what about this logic binding thing? Is that where the AI magic happens?
Yeah, exactly. Palantir builds like algorithms, rules,
Mm-hmm.
even like existing machine learning models, and they build them directly into the ontology itself. So it's like you're giving that map that we talked about a brain, and so now it can actually analyze what's happening and start to like make decisions.
Okay, so hold on. Action orchestration, that sounds a little ominous to me. Like, is the ontology going to start launching missiles or something?
No, it's not quite that extreme,
Yeah.
but it does mean that the ontology can actually trigger actions in the real world based on what it's seeing and analyzing. So, maybe it's adjusting inventory levels, or in like a military scenario, maybe it's suggesting like what kind of countermeasures to use against like a specific threat or something.
Okay, now that does sound a bit like a spy movie, I gotta say. Are we talking about AI actually controlling things in the real world?
Not quite. It's more about like providing really good suggestions to the humans who are actually, the ones in charge. So imagine like a military operator using this ontology to like game out different scenarios. Based on what the AI is seeing, it might suggest doing something like jamming enemy communications, but it's still a human who makes that final call. Yeah, actually pushes the button.
So it's like having this incredibly smart advisor constantly analyzing tons of data and can actually see things that we as humans might miss.
Exactly. And, with that kind of power, obviously comes a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
You don't want the AI making decisions that it shouldn't be making, especially these like really high stakes situations.
Yeah, that's what always makes me a little nervous about all this AI stuff. What's to stop it from going off the rails?
And that's where Palantir's focus on security and making sure that this technology is used responsibly really comes in. And they've actually built in a bunch of different safeguards to make sure that things don't, go haywire.
Okay, so what are they actually doing to keep this AI under control, so to speak?
Well, the article talks about their three-layer security approach, and it starts with what they call data sensitivity controls. So basically, this means that the AI can't just access any data it wants. It's like having a security guard at the door, right?
Right.
Making sure that the AI only sees the information that it's supposed to see. So, for example, if it doesn't need to see like personal information, it won't even have access to it in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if the AI, figures out a way around those controls? I mean, we've all seen the movies where the AI outsmarts the humans.
Right. And that's where the second layer comes in. They call them action constraints.
Yeah.
And this is all about like putting limits on what the AI can actually do, even if it has the data. So it's like giving it a set of rules, a leash, You know what I mean? So for example, in a factory, the AI might be able to analyze all the production data, but it couldn't just like shut down the entire production line without a human giving the okay first.
So even if the AI thinks it knows what's best, it can't just like go rogue and take over.
Exactly. And then the third layer is all about transparency, and they call this auditability.
Okay.
So basically, every single thing that the AI does, every input, every output, every action is logged and tracked. It's like having a security camera recording everything, right? So you can always go back and see what happened.
So it's not just a black box where nobody knows what's going on inside.
Exactly.
Right.
If there's ever a question about why the AI did something, you can actually go back and see the whole decision-making process.
And this is especially important in areas like defense or finance, where there are tons of regulations and the stakes are really high. It sounds like Palantir is really going above and beyond when it comes to making this AI safe and transparent, which I gotta say I really appreciate. But even with all these safeguards, it's still a little bit unsettling to think about AI making decisions that could affect, people's lives.
I totally get that. But I think it's important to remember that Palantir isn't trying to replace humans altogether. They're really focused on this idea of human-AI collaboration, where the AI is more like a superpowered tool that helps humans make better decisions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this human AI collaboration thing. How does that actually work, on the ground?
So it's all about finding that right balance,
Mhm.
between the AI's ability to analyze like huge amounts of data and the human's expertise and judgment. And Palantir calls this the hybrid workflow.
Okay, I like that humans are still in the loop. So how does this hybrid workflow actually play out?
It's got like three main parts: scenario exploration, decision staging, and continuous adaptation. Let's say you're like a disaster response team dealing with a hurricane.
Okay, yeah.
With scenario exploration, you could use the AI to like play out all these different what if scenarios. Like, what if we send rescue teams to this area? Or what if the storm surges higher than we expected? That kind of thing.
So the AI becomes like a high-tech crystal ball, helping humans see all the potential consequences of their actions.
That's a great way to put it. It can run all these simulations, factor in tons of different variables, and give you a much clearer picture of what might happen. And then with decision staging, the AI doesn't just like spit out a command or something.
Okay.
It actually presents its analysis, to the human experts along with like recommended actions.
So the AI is like, hey, based on all this data, I think this is the best move, but what do you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's providing all this context, highlighting potential risks, even suggesting alternative options, but it's still the human who makes that final call.
That makes a lot of sense. You get the AI's analytical power, but the human is still ultimately in control. What about this continuous adaptation thing? Does the AI actually learn from these situations?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like the key to making sure that the AI is actually helpful and not just, a fancy calculator. As humans interact with the system, like approving, modifying, or even rejecting its recommendations, the AI is constantly learning and refining its understanding.
So it's like the AI is getting on-the-job training with human experts as its mentors.
I like that analogy. Yeah, over time, the AI gets better and better at anticipating what humans need and providing like the most useful insights.
When we first started talking about this whole ontology thing, it sounded incredibly abstract. But hearing these examples, I'm starting to see how this could actually be applied in so many different areas.
Yeah, and the article actually goes into a few specific examples. One that really stood out to me was how Palantir worked with this utility company during a hurricane.
Oh, wow, hurricanes. Those are like notoriously unpredictable and chaotic. How did AI help in that situation?
Well, the utility company was facing this huge challenge, right? Like how to restore power to thousands of customers as quickly and safely as possible, all while dealing with like down power lines, flooding, constantly changing weather conditions. It was a mess.
Yeah, that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It really was. But Palantir's AI platform was able to pull in real-time data from all these different sources, like weather feeds, sensor networks, even reports from the crews that were out there, on the ground.
So it had like a much clearer, more up-to-date picture of the situation than humans could get on their own.
Exactly. And using all that information, the AI could actually suggest optimized plans for like dispatching repair crews, prioritizing which areas to focus on first, and even predicting which areas were likely to be hit next, as the storm was moving.
So AI wasn't just reacting to the disaster, it was actually helping them get ahead of it.
Exactly. And that's like one of the key benefits of this kind of AI-powered decision support. It can help humans see the bigger picture, anticipate potential problems, and respond in a much more effective way.
That's really impressive. But I'm also curious how the human workers, the people who are actually out there on the ground, how do they feel about having an AI involved in this kind of like high pressure situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it highlights a really crucial part of using AI successfully, making sure that people don't feel like they're being replaced or that the AI is calling all the shots. In this case, the AI was very clearly positioned as a tool to help the human experts, not to replace them.
So it was like a true collaboration with the AI providing insights and the humans using their expertise to make those final decisions.
Exactly. And it sounds like the workers actually really appreciated having this extra support. It helped them make more informed decisions, prioritize their efforts, and ultimately restore power, more quickly and safely.
That makes a lot of sense. I think no matter how advanced AI gets, there will always be a need for that human judgment and intuition, especially in those situations where, you know, lives are at stake.
Absolutely. And the article also mentions some really interesting examples of how Palantir is using AI in the manufacturing world.
Oh, yeah. Manufacturing is all about like efficiency and precision. I'm curious to see how AI fits into that.
We talked about how Palantir worked with this large factory that was struggling to balance production output with quality control. You know,
Oh, yeah. I can see how that'd be a tough balancing act.
for sure, you want to produce as much as possible, but not if it means sacrificing quality.
Right.
But Palantir's AI platform was able to connect data from like every stage of the production process. Raw materials, assembly lines, quality checks, the whole 9 yards.
So the AI had this complete view of how the entire factory was operating.
Exactly. And using that data, it could identify bottlenecks, predict when equipment was likely to fail, even suggest adjustments to the production line to improve efficiency and quality.
It's like having this super smart consultant who can spot problems before they even happen.
Yeah, exactly. And the results were pretty amazing. The factory was able to significantly increase its output without sacrificing quality, and they actually reduced waste in the process.
Wow, that's a huge win. But I'm curious how the factory workers reacted to having an AI like watching over their work. Did they feel like they were being micromanaged?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
But Palantir was super careful about how they introduced the AI. It wasn't about replacing workers or automating them out of a job. It was about giving them a powerful tool to help them do their jobs even better.
So the AI was more like a partner than a boss.
Exactly. And the workers actually really embraced the technology. It helped them make better decisions, identify potential problems, before they became big issues, and ultimately feel more confident in their work.
It's fascinating to see how AI is changing these like traditional industries. I'm starting to think there's almost no limit to how this technology can be used.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see the potential, but it's also important to remember that AI is a tool, right? It's up to us, the humans, to decide how we use it and what kind of future we want to build with it.
I totally agree. It's not about letting the AI take over. It's about using it to empower ourselves and solve problems that we couldn't solve before.
And I think that's a perfect segue into what we discussed earlier about those key lessons that we can learn from Palantir's approach to AI. Not just for data engineers, but for anyone who's interested in the future of technology.
You're right. These lessons are important for all of us. So let's recap lesson 1. Ontology first design. What does that actually mean, like in practical terms?
It means thinking beyond just like collecting and storing data. It's about understanding the relationships between those data points, the processes they represent, and ultimately how they can be used to make better decisions.
So it's about seeing the forest, not just the trees.
Exactly. It's about building AI systems that have a deeper understanding of the context in which they're operating, just like humans do.
And lesson 2, hybrid intelligence systems. Why is that so important?
Because AI and humans have different strengths, right? AI excels at analyzing these massive amounts of data and identifying patterns. Humans are really good at intuition, creativity, and making those nuanced judgments that AI just can't replicate.
So it's not about AI versus human, it's about finding ways for them to work together.
Precisely. The most effective AI systems are the ones that are designed to augment human capabilities, not to replace them.
Okay, and lesson 3, security as a foundational service. Why can't we just treat security as an afterthought?
Because in these mission-critical situations, the stakes are so high. We're talking about AI systems that could have a real impact on people's lives. So we need to build in security from the ground up, make sure those systems are trustworthy, and hold them accountable for their actions.
It's like building a skyscraper. You don't just add the safety features after it's already built.
That's a perfect analogy. Security needs to be part of the foundation from the very beginning.
And finally, lesson 4, real-time operationalization. Why is adaptability so crucial for AI systems?
Because the world is constantly changing, right? AI systems need to be able to adapt to new information, new challenges, and new circumstances in real time.
So they can't just be smart, they need to be quick on their feet.
Exactly. They need to be able to keep up with the pace of change just like we do as humans.
These 4 lessons are really insightful, and I think they provide a framework for thinking about the future of AI in a more responsible and beneficial way.
I agree. It's not about blindly embracing AI or fearing it.
Hmm?
It's about understanding its capabilities, its limitations, and its potential impact on our lives.
And ultimately, it's about using this powerful technology to create a better future for everyone you know. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what's possible with AI, especially after seeing how Palantir is using it.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
pretty exciting. And kind of mind-bending, too, when you think about where all this could lead.
We talked about, the technical side, those 4 key lessons and some real-world examples, but what about the bigger picture? Like, what does this mean for the world, for everyday people?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't think anyone really has all the answers yet.
Whenever I hear about AI doing more and more, I can't help but think about jobs. What happens when AI can do what a lot of people do for a living?
I think that's a valid concern. And throughout history, new technologies have often shifted the types of jobs that are in demand.
So it's not necessarily like mass unemployment, but more of a shift in what skills are needed.
Exactly. The key is making sure that people have the opportunity to learn those new skills and adapt to that, changing job market.
So investing in education and training programs becomes even more important in the age of AI.
Absolutely. And I think it goes beyond just, specific job skill. It's about fostering this mindset of lifelong learning,
Yeah.
you know, being open to new ways of working and adapting to a world where technology is constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's almost like those skills of being adaptable and a quick learner, they become as valuable as any particular trade?
I think you're right. The ability to learn new things quickly and apply them effectively,
Yeah.
that's going to be essential no matter what field you're in.
This whole conversation has been really eye-opening. I came in with a lot of questions, some excitement, some anxieties, but I feel like I have a much better understanding now of what responsible AI development actually looks like.
Yeah, it's been great unpacking all this with you.
Yeah.
And I think the key takeaway here is that AI is a really powerful tool, but it's still a tool at the end of the day. It's up to us, the humans, to decide how we use it and what kind of future we want to build with it.
We can't just sit back and let the technology decide what happens. We need to be active participants in shaping this future.
Absolutely. And that means having these conversations, asking those tough questions, and demanding that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone you know.
So, for anyone listening who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed or unsure about this whole AI thing, what's like the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Stay curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions, learn more, and engage in the conversation. The future of AI isn't predetermined. It's something that we're all creating together.
That's a great point. Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you found it informative and thought-provoking.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and let's build a future where AI is a force for good in the world.